This is Spideydude Experience, the Season 2 finale. Trust me when I say this episode will probably be one of the most, have some of the most adult language that we've seen on the show so far. It's a big episode. This is the end of the Beyond story. Is it good? Is it bad? You'll find out very soon. But before we get started, I want to thank our patrons at patreon.com/Spidey Network. Vinkman, Scott, Greg, Jurgen, Phoenician, Kale, not Kaylee, it's Kale. Also, we have a new one. It's not up on the screen yet, but it's Georgia. Thank you all for your support as we begin Season 3. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me a little better now. Sorry about the musical issues. But, like I said before we get started, this is a big episode. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank everybody that's taken part in the chat over the last season as we reflect on the end of Season 2 and get into Season 3. All right, without further ado, I am Zach Joyner, webmaster of Spideydude.com and the executive producer of the Spideydude Radio Network. And first up, I'm going to introduce Neil Bogenreiter. Neil.
Oh no, okay. So I had a little thing prepared. So it's a little hard being perfect, right?
Oh God, you're not perfect.
Yes, I am. I am a beautiful prince of a man. But here's the thing about being perfect is that I'm always right, and unfortunately, I don't like always being right because more often than not, when I'm right, it's for the wrong reasons. And we'll talk more about that soon, but I hate being right today.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have moniker Adam Beyond. Adam, the art apologist.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, but not after today. Beyond no more, unfortunately. But you know, all things must pass.
All right. Up next, we have Paul Herman.
Hello.
The host of the Comic Bench YouTube channel. You can check out his latest episode where he talks about Moon Knight and gives a primer for the Moon Knight Disney Plus series that came out the day of this recording. Of course, you'll be getting this a couple weeks from now, but for now, you'll be getting the episode live. So we have a special guest, though. It's not just Paul, not just the Fantastic Four that we normally have. No, we have Ryan, the Dr. Reed.
That is I. The doctor is in the house.
Dr. Ryan Reed. He is the host of the Comic Pixel, or the Pixel Classroom podcast. Excuse me. And thank you, Ryan, for coming on. He actually had me on, was it episode 98?
You were 98, and I just celebrated the big 100 this past week.
Congratulations on the 100th episode of your show. Check that out on Spotify and other fine podcast catchers. So, okay. Before we get started into the main event of the issues, obviously is a big day. The end of Beyond, spoiler warning, language warning, also our standard disclaimer that we give at the beginning of every episode. This is an for audio listeners. There will be references probably to visual aids, and as such, due to that, we apologize for that. But be sure to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Spideydude. And speaking of, we got Javi, part of the Spidey Radio Network. Javier is the co-host of Amazing Spider-Man Classics with his son Jack. Season 2 has already dropped, so. He's already says, I'm going to be salty. Yeah, probably. He says, hey, Spider friends, just wanted to wave and say hi, just checking in briefly to let you know I am with you in spirit. He was going to try to be on tonight, but he has to work. So he will be on.
You, just know that.
He will be on a little bit later in the form of a voicemail. So a bit of a teaser for that here in a little bit. We do have a couple of news topics that I want to cover. Neil, did you get you have the links in the Google Docs?
No, let me pull it up. Sorry, I'm pulling up everything right now.
For our audio listeners, he just got home.
Yeah, I just got home. Are we talking about Legends first, or?
Yeah, we'll real quickly talk about Legends. If you have not picked up the Silk figure Fret Not, she is going to be re-released with Doc Ock of all people, in a 2-pack that is part of the Beyond Amazing 60th anniversary celebration that Marvel has started. They pre-orders for that. It's an Amazon exclusive. Are out. It's not just Amazon. Now we're using Marvelous News if you're watching us on YouTube for the information, but it's classic Doc Ock. It is a re-release with a different head sculpt altogether. Now the Silk one is notable because starting with the Shriek figure that came out in December's No Way Home wave, Shriek was the first one to use the new pinless body, so there is no pins on the joints, so she is completely pinless. Also has a new head sculpt, and
this is also the first Silk mold to have the short hair as opposed to her usual longer hair.
Yeah, all the other ones were reused. This head sculpt looks like it's completely new, just like the Doc Ock. The Doc Ock came with it. I don't have him next to me, but the other Doc Ock. The one thing that I will lament is that there's no bendy tentacles on this. I'm going to wait for people to get this, that are looking to get a Doc Ock. Hopefully they'll be selling the Silk, and so I'll try to snag that on the aftermarket. I just don't feel like buying the same figure twice unless it's like retro packaging. So, I would also like to have seen like a suited Ock personally.
Oh, the armored one.
Yeah, I mean, if Ock has to be green and yellow and needs to be in the 90s, I wouldn't have. I expect that that may be wave 3. I mean, these retro waves have sold like gangbusters.
Mm-hmm.
People love these retro waves. So it's a good classic Doc Ock. I just wish he had bendy tentacles. That's my one big lament. If he has bendy tentacles, then I would be very, very interested in getting him. But this
is a pretty good mold.
Yeah, it's fun fact. It's the same mold as the Frogman. Frogman uses the same mold.
Based Ock ripping off of based Frogman.
Well, no, Ock had it first, and then they used it for Frogman later. So, yeah,
Frogman did it first. That's my
I said Frogman to get Paul's attention, but yeah. So there's that, and then of course we do know what issue 900 is going to be, at least kind of through solicitations a little bit. Solicitations have not come out. I'm expecting them to come out tomorrow for the month of June, but not issue 900 is going to be coming out, and they did announce
in June, right?
Yeah, it's going to be in June that Ed McGuinness is going to be drawing that issue. So Zeb Wells writing, Ed McGuinness doing the 900 issue.
$10, by the way.
It's going to be $10. Yep. So I won't go into super spoilers just because I don't know how much Paul's read. That he tends to try to avoid spoilers. So out of respect for him, I won't say what the villain is, at least of the piece.
Is he even here right now? I thought he got up.
I don't know, but moving on. So these next two. So the final one is IDW is doing a Todd McFarlane Artist Edition trade or hardcover. So basically going to collect all 24 issues of his ASM run. Yeah, I've never gotten these.
Black and white.
Yeah, this is going to be in black and white.
I think this is all inked, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's inked stuff. It's got
completely inked.
It's got like white out.
Because I know that some artist editions only have pencils. So because I think what was it? Dark Knight's Metal and Snyder and Capullo's Batman Omnibus does it in black and does it in pencils, right?
Yeah, I've never dealt with any of these artist editions, but this is kind of a cool thing. Todd McFarlane,
It's a cool gimmick.
Yeah.
Zach,
Look, Paul has the artist edition of Star Wars.
Walt
IDW.
Simonson, baby.
That's
Yeah,
bad.
this is gorgeous. Yeah, I gotta tell you guys, these are amazing,
Yeah.
and I will probably be buying that. I'm not a big artist edition guy either, but if you're a huge fan of the franchise, which again, if you're of the franchise meaning the Star Wars right here, and you're a huge fan of the artist like I am of Walt Simonson, because he is an artist icon in my opinion, these are definitely worth picking up. You have to really love the medium, I think, because it is black and white. It really is just getting to the nitty gritty of the actual art, and this is gorgeous. I mean, I can only imagine that Todd McFarlane stuff is just unreal. So that is going to be a day one purchase for me, probably. I didn't even know that was even coming out.
Yeah, I saw that on marvelousnews.com. Thanks to them for the
these are
report.
worth it. They're expensive, but they're worth it.
I do want to answer Matt's question of why IDW is reprinting a Marvel property.
They have a little deal.
They have a licensing deal, yeah, with Marvel.
They do all the artist editions with them. Like they have Born Again. They have a bunch of Spider-Man ones with John Romita and Ross Andrew and Gil Kane.
Which I'm glad that those things exist because like with Ditko, I mean, he was allegedly using his Spider-Man art for cutting boards.
Right.
But I think the reason why it exists because Marvel probably doesn't want to spend a bunch of money doing these things, and it probably is like, okay, we'll pay us a bunch of money. You guys can deal with the overcost and all that jazz. So
it's the same reason that they no longer make their own toys. I mean, they don't have to pay the overhead. I mean, it's easier it's cheaper for them long term to just pay a licensing fee than it is to pay the legacy costs, the equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and also it gives IDW a property to publish because they no longer have Transformers.
Jared Hammonds, my coworker, said, "Dude, I just showed my kids the original non-special edition Star Wars trilogy this past weekend, and they loved it. He had a VHS copy of the original of Star Wars." Showed that to me today, so he saw. I'm sure he saw Paul's Star Wars comic thing and is probably freaking out. He's a big Star Wars nut. Paul is a Star Wars guy, so Jared, I'll share. I'll have Paul send me all of the Star Wars stuff he's done on podcasts, and I'll send them to you. So Jared's a good guy. Thanks for watching, buddy. So. Yeah, as they will be classically trained, and it is the only way to watch the original trilogy. Like, proper way, excuse me. All right.
You disagree, Bankman.
Yeah, I know. I do. So with us covering the news and getting the news out of the way, I did that very quickly. What does everybody think about these news topics?
Okay, so I guess I'll start.
You can start, Neil. Yeah, that's fine.
So, I don't collect a whole lot of Marvel Legends figures. Zach has warned me about the money pit that they become, so I have wisely stayed away from them for now. Maybe once my student debt's paid.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a nice Silk figure. I assume Zach pulled up that one, specifically brought up Silk because I'm a Silk fan. But
partially, and I never did get the original 2 Silk figures. I never got the fan channel. Or the fan, not the fan channel, the fan vote.
It's nice to see a new head sculpt.
They've been tending to do that a lot more with these re-releases. They'll do like a head sculpt, or they'll do something to differentiate between the two, because they do know that they have collectors that buy like multiples. For example, Greg has multiple of the classic Spidey costume, the new mold, and he's got a Ditko head and a Romita head, and he puts one for one action sequence and then the other for the other. So
ASM 900. I'm not paying $10 for this, even without spoilers. Just out of respect for Paul, because I know he's big on not being spoiled. I don't really have enough interest in Wells's run to justify paying twice a month for the book, and then to add another like $7 for a story I'm not even sure I'll like. So, you know, there's a new Daredevil run coming out by Zdarsky and Chichetto. There's more what is it? Not She-Hulk. There's other books out there that I feel are more deserving of my money and time than a $10 ASM book. Even if it's a legacy number.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be sharing digital copies with Neil. That's kind of our agreement, so he can continue doing the show and be a part of the show. But you know, it's hard to trust me.
Especially in the current
economy. And I'll get into it when we get to 93. But I struggled today. Today was not a good day as a Ben Reilly fan. I'll just say that. All right, so let's knock out these first couple of issues, because 92 really, or 993 really sets up 994. Will Neil give us a rundown of 993?
Of 892.
892, yeah. 890, yeah.
All right, yeah, okay. So Amazing Spider-Man number 92, Legacy number 893, plot by Kelly Thompson, script by Jed McKay, art, Jesus, 3 artists. And I talked about this before the show started, but I was listening to our last recording in the car while on my way home from work. So we're gonna treat this as though there was no time gap, like we never left off. So
right.
3 artists. Fran Gallen, Sarah Pacelli, and Zay Carlos. Brian Reber's the only colorist. So basically, the art shifts like from page to page. Misty, Colleen, and Spidey are taking on the Morbius lizard. It is Morbius lizard, right? It's Morbius's wings, right?
Yeah,
it's Morbius's wings mixed with the lizard. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It was what was behind door Z. It was the big reveal of what was behind door Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just know that he's like King Komodo now, so that's
yes. Lizard man. He's like Godzilla meets the lizard meets Morbius. Because movie time.
So they get behind the door and they seal it behind them to prevent King Komodo from getting to them, and they find Morbius hooked up to what is it? Is it like a coffin or not a coffin? It's like a life support machine, right? Oh, is it a transfusion machine?
Transfusion machine.
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to tell by the art.
Yeah. So the art changes to Sarah Pacelli. 3 pages in, guys. Off to a great start. Not even 3 pages in, we're already having an art change. And so Ben is at Beyond Tower, and I guess is the implication that he tore apart Langston. Because that was my implication. Because we've never seen Beyond Tower like this before. So my assumption is that like he came here and tore apart Langston. But he's like, Peter would feel bad. I don't feel a thing. So as Ben scrolls through r/I am very smart. I am 14 and this is very deep. He is assaulted by a bunch of guys with guns. And then the scene transitions to another artist, Zay Carlos, as Maxine is talking to the Beyond board. And has the big red button pop up where she sees a feed of Ben beating the crap out of Beyond security. Cut back again to Misty, Peter, and Colleen. And did they just kill more? No. Oh, they hooked. Spider-Man's holding the door back while King Komodo's trying to get in, and I guess Colleen and Misty are unhooking Morbius from the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and he wakes up, and he's like, "I'm myself again." And he's talking like how his system was put in crisis and Beyond actually helped him for once, but turns out it was just to make it easier for them to experiment on him and cut him up and take samples. And Peter's is like, "Hey, I know this is a great reunion and all, but can you guys please hurry this up so I'm not the one holding the door?" Cut back again to Beyond Tower. Ben has webbed up all the security guards and is walking around saying, like, I had to release Creature Z. I'm not a bad person. I just need my memories back. And his spider sense goes off, and Ben turns around to see a bunch of flying sandwiches attacking Ben. One of the few really out there instances of the Beyond Corporation actually doing something interesting for once. Ben is back at the Staten Island facility. Peter notices that King Komodo has stopped banging on the door, and Misty says, "You know what? If he comes back, we're gonna shoot him, and we're gonna call Monica Rambeau to help kind of clean us up." And the four escape. Cut back. Jesus, who's writing these cuts? I'm sorry. This is frustrating me. So Ben is fighting off the giant sandwich. He's fighting the giant sandwiches.
It's a double-decker sandwich, to be exact, too.
Yeah. And he's getting overwhelmed before Maxine arrives and shoots one through the bread with a laser gun. And Ben says, "You know, I'm gonna. This was always too good to be true. We're gonna figure this out together." And then it cuts again to
Wait.
What?
Sorry, I was trying to pull this up on my Comixology on the desktop. I have not used Comixology on the desktop.
Now you know how bad it is. That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Continue. Sorry.
So,
I didn't mean to kill the vibe.
What vibe? This is just a piece of shit. So cut back again to Maxine in her office as Marcus comes in and says, "You know what? I finally decided to grow a conscience. Screw you, Maxine. I'm out." And Maxine's like, "Oh, yeah, you're really principled. And credit to the company." Cut again to Colleen, Misty, and Morbius in the car as they drive out and ram King Komodo with the car. As like he doesn't die, but like it's kind of macabre. Is like he's going like squee as like he's lying in pain on the ground. And King Komodo gets up. He grows back his leg after Colleen cuts it off, and she's now the one who has King Komodo's attention. Cut back yet again to Ben and Janine poorly running down the hallways. They kiss and they go their separate ways to kind of solve the plot on their own. As Ben, oh my god, this running drawing is horrible. Like where Ben kind of does a little happy jog down the corridor, saying, like, you know, it's time to get my memories back and be who I should be. To be continued. Okay, I know you said I know we usually say let's give grade. This was a F.
So we already know Neil's grade. Adam Beyond, what's your grade?
I think I'll give it a B minus.
B minus, okay. Paul?
C.
C. Ryan?
I gave it a C before. I give it a C still.
To me, this is a C minus. I thought the scripting was better, but then I realized it was not Kelly Thompson. It was Jen McKay. So then I was like, oh, that's why.
Dialogue wise, it's much better, but for the one problem McKay came to fix, there are 50 billion other problems that take its place.
I can tell. You can go back and listen to the old episodes when we were talking about this Beyond board. Kelly Thompson was the one I was most excited for. One of the ones I was most excited for. She's been the biggest disappointment. I gave last issue an F because it just really wasn't working. The scripting was improved in this issue, and I'm not even going to blame Kelly Thompson for a lot of this. This is an editing problem, and we'll get into this more, I think, when we get to the next issue. But this felt like it was just slapped together last minute. The fact that we have 3 artists does not help it whatsoever.
The pacing's all over the place.
Pacing is all over the place. The artwork gets confusing. The plot gets confusing. It just felt convoluted. And it's why I can't help but give it a C- because it did its job. Sorry, guys, but it failed on a fundamental level.
Like the art. Okay, so I don't know like who's going through the motions, but like for whatever reason, artistically, this issue feels like it's kind of just going through the motions. The Zay Carlos shots in particular, like shot reverse shot, doesn't feel like there's like what's his name, Fran Golan, the guy who did the Extreme Carnage stuff. His stuff for whatever reason feels like the best stuff in the book. Like Zay Carlos's is cleaner and it feels more anatomically correct, but Fran Golan's art feels a lot more dynamic and more expressive. So I was having a lot more fun with that part of the book than I was with like Ben in like these stale corridors fighting flying sandwiches, which I like the flying sandwiches, but that was pretty funny. But like the environment around him is so stale and non-expressive, and it's just like blank backgrounds with a bit of shading, and that makes me feel it just made it feel like Pichelli wasn't really giving it her all in this one.
I've been on record saying that Pichelli's art just did not do much for me, and this really just didn't do much. So to review the grades, I gave it a C-. Adam, you gave it a C?
B-.
B-. Oh, Adam is the positive one. We'll go to him last. With the B-. Neil gave it an F. Paul gave it a C+, and Ryan gave it a straight C. P-Thug, what constituted the C+ for you?
The art was pretty bad, and thought it was kind of a mess. It was just a mess, overall. But I mean, comics a lot of times are all when you're wrapping things up, and this is no different than any other tie-in for trying to wrap all of these different story points up together. And I gotta tell you, I actually liked the Morbius lizard combo creature. I thought it looked kind of cool, especially the Art Adams cover. I thought the cover was beautiful.
Oh no, the Art Adams cover I think is the highlight of the issue in my opinion.
It is, but I mean that's a lot of comics highlights a lot of times because Art Adams, right? I mean, come on. I mean,
I honestly would have loved for them to keep him on as the cover artist moving forward.
I've grown accustomed to having Art Adams on board, but yeah, I think that I actually like the idea what Beyond is doing. It's just that right now because we've talked about at the very beginning, they're trying to get to a certain point to get to a new launching point for Zeb and John Romita Jr. And so we're seeing that at the faults of that right now. Is that an editorial problem? Absolutely. So I'm not going to defend that by any means, but I also am just going to accept it. I mean, I'm like, well, this is comic books, man. I mean, like, give me how many crossover stories like this when you're encompassing massive amounts of characters are going to stick the landing like this, or stick the landing and just do like grade A, like just amazing. It's rare, I mean, it's rare. Some do it better than others, but I feel like this one was not great. The art was really jarring. It was really, really bad. But yeah, I like the lizard character. I thought it was cool. It was nice to see why they brought Morbius in the first place and why he's there. So it gave him again wrap that story point up for me. I thought that was fine. I'm like, okay, cool, move on. I don't think that was bad. So to me, okay, cool. You justified what they're doing a little bit as far as not why they're doing it, but at least what they're doing. So and what they're doing with Ben. So yeah. To me, it progressed things forward, but the art was so it was too much. So yeah, C wasn't a C+, it was a C, but yes, C for me.
So that's actually a good point that Zero Kiori comes up with. I think Thompson said she was only scripting a love angle for Ben and Janine this whole run. Then why didn't you have issues that were focusing on Ben and Janine?
That part doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that part. I mean, if that's the case, there's a lot. There's a lot that I have questions about. Somebody wants to say hi.
I didn't mean like that, but hi.
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah wanted to say hi.
Hi, Sarah.
So everybody says hi. All right. So let's go to Ryan.
Well, I'm kind of gonna echo the same part too. There was just so much going on in this issue, and I said this in my original video review myself. It's just I felt there was just so much going on. Like, okay, we gotta get all these storylines. We gotta explain exactly how did everything fit in. What was Beyond really doing? What did it have to do with Spider-Man? And then, like I said, it's just all over the place. It's like I agree with you, Zach. I was high on Kelly being the writer of actually writing Spider-Man stories. I was like, oh, this is great. She can finally do it. And I've loved Sarah's work. I've even met her in person. Wonderful woman. But the art is just so choppy and it just jumps around and jumps around. I was happy with them and them actually bringing Morbius back, actually having him sense, actually explain how he got there, what was wrong with him in the actual issues, even how, he got his arm and missing nipple put back together on his body before everything happened. Yeah. So I like, and you know what?
It was like the status quo had to be resolved because we have him coming in. We have a movie coming out in April. Yes. Kind of type thing,
that's a story for another time.
Yeah,
our timing on this podcast coming out is prescient.
True.
It's true. The audio edition will be after Morbius comes out,
but everyone watched the stream edition.
But
not everyone. We got good downloads on the audio edition.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, I definitely love my stuff with the Daughters of the Dragon, but and we'll talk about this with the BEY issue with Dr. Mike and Colleen and Misty, which were some great moments too. But it's just like, oh yeah, Ben's over here going through here and Maxine's doing her issue. But let's go back to Staten Island. Remember all that? Oh, let's go back. Oh, here's these evil double-decker sandwiches trying to eat Ben because in Beyond the sandwiches eat you. You don't eat sandwiches.
In Beyond Corporation, sandwiches eat you.
Wait, why are we doing the count? I don't even know what that was.
Yeah.
I don't remember the count being from that part of the world. Okay, anyhow.
He's got a movie coming out. Give his nipple back. Thanks, man.
But anyhow, but yeah, that's why it's like I just felt like they're just trying to get everything done. They're like, oh, remember this, and oh yeah, let's talk about the lizard. But I also like Peter's reaction, like Connor's what they did for you. Like, did you forget that him and the lizard are no longer together, or what's forget about what happened when Nick Spencer 10 months ago? But yeah, it's just like they felt like they're trying to get all these storylines and everything together and so forth, and that's basically why this issue comes. And I gave it some parts because they were trying to do it, and there were some interesting. I said I definitely enjoyed the things with Daughters of the Dragon and Morbius and that, but after that, that's where I kind of stopped being happy with the issue and just like, okay, let's get this issue done, please, because I've jumped around enough places. And if you see my review, I'm jumping around on the screen trying to match the comic, so
So you can check out his review over on the Crawl Space front page. All right, Adam.
Yes.
Why did you like this issue more than everybody else?
I actually don't know. I thought the thing is the art. I do agree that the art is kind of jarring, but I think it's like an up and down kind of thing. I didn't really think that anyone was necessarily worse than anyone else. I was more disappointed that Zay Carlos got the static talking scenes. I wish that he did, more dynamic action stuff, but they gave him the talking.
Yeah. I wish he'd done the Ben stuff because that would have been a perfect use of his dynamicism.
Actually, yeah, that would be cool, and because I do think he draws a good Spider-Man, so I probably would have preferred that. Overall, I thought it was. I guess I just thought it was a fairly fast-paced, brisk thing that wasn't totally boring to me. A lot of stuff's getting thrown out there, but we got to wrap it up. So it's like, all right, I don't know. I feel like overall the whole Beyond angle was a weird angle to use for this story, but Nick Lowe wanted to use it, I guess, because he edited the Next Wave book back in the day or whatever. So I have no clue. I don't know. I thought it wasn't terrible, enjoyable enough.
Yeah,
Not
I gave
really-
it
not that boring.
I gave it a C- because it served the function. I
Right.
mean, you have the big, what's behind door Z reveal.
I didn't love it. I didn't hate it though. So
it served the function to progress the story. But honestly, and this kind of leads me into our next issue, 92.BEY, which I'm glad that Neil is recapping because he can explain to me what the fuck is going on with it.
Okay, so once upon a time in 2005, there was a 12-issue.
2005. Hang on. How old were you, Neil?
I was 6 years old.
You were 6 years old.
Yeah.
I was 17 when this next wave shit came out. But go on.
Jesus.
But there was a man named Warren Ellis. He's been canceled now, so you probably haven't heard of him.
We don't talk about war.
Yeah, there we go. And there was also a man named Stuart Immonen, and they
Yay.
they produced a comic starring Monica Rambeau, Elsa Bloodstone, Boom Boom, Machine Man, and this random guy called the Captain, and what will be known as Next Wave Agents of Hate. And they were recruited by the organization Hate to to fight the efforts of the Beyond Corporation. And part of what got me excited for Beyond was my love of Next Wave. Unfortunately, because no one at Marvel was creative, we never got anything that was remotely similar to Beyond Corporation, to what I knew as Beyond Corporation, until the last 2.5 issues. And I say half because this is that half. So Amazing Spider-Man 92.BEY, written by Jed MacKay, Cody Ziegler, and Zeb Wells in different components. And holy shit, there are 4 pencilers and an inker. Luigi Zagaria, Bruno Oliveira, Fran Gallen, and Mark Bagley with Wayne Foucher on inks. And as far as colorists go, Espen Grunderjern, Carlos Lopez, Jim Campbell, Jim, whatever this is. How do you say this? Charalampidis?
This is where I wish I had Gerard.
Yeah, and Maury Hollowell on colors. And for those of you
your favorite.
Yeah, for those of you who have been in
It's pronounced Charlatpedius.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Glad we have you on here. But
That's why I'm the
that's
doctor.
a lot of that's a lot of colorists. Or not that's a lot of colorists and a lot of inkers. So the issue begins where we left off, where Monica, Colleen Wing, and Misty Knight. I'm sorry. Where Misty, Colleen, and Morbius are fighting King Komodo, and they get some of Morbius is like, haha, got you just as planned. I gave you an overdose of my blood, so maybe that way you'll explode. But unfortunately, it's the equivalent of giving him steroids. And then he explodes. So I guess he won. So they walk away, and that's all that really matters if you're reading the actual main Beyond story. But later, well, yes, but the scene cuts to Monica Rambeau cracking her knuckles as she enters the Beyond Corporation facility in I think this is the Staten Island facility, right? That was my takeaway from it.
So.
But she's talking.
Yes.
But if you remember Next Wave, Agents of Hate, and I know Zach hasn't, so I'll kind of refresh you on it. Monica has a very large chip on her shoulder about leading the Avengers. Throughout the book, she's constantly reminded. She is constantly reminding people to humorous effect about her time on the Avengers, how she used to lead them, and everyone hates her for it because they are tired of hearing about her time on the Avengers. And she said,
"Did you write this book?" Sorry.
And she talks about how she lost her Avengers leadership to Dr. Druid, and how she'd always tried to be likable, and now she's decided, I'm not going to be likable anymore. I'm anti-Monica. It's sort of a derogatory statement on her part about how everyone refers to her as like Aunt Monica. And she basically goes full spectrum and blows her way through the facility until she finds dun 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 X-51, aka Machine Man, who is in a Beyond locker drinking himself to death. But because he's a robot, he cannot get drunk. So if you have read Slott's Iron Man, God help you, Machine Man was dating Yocasta, who left him, and he decided he would be a supervillain instead for the Beyond Corporation's BlackRock program. And Monica gets eventually fed up and get on your feet. We're gonna kick some ass and blow this shit up. And if you've been wondering where the rest of Next Wave is, Monica provides the helpful explanation that Boom Boom is on Mutant Sex Island, aka Mutant Israel. Elsa is in England, to which Machine Man appropriately replies, "Ugh," based Machine Man. And Cap is the captain from Next Wave is a whole other story. Basically, they blow their way through the facility. Machine Man's just chainsawing everything, and Monica's flying holes through everybody until Machine Man uses his propeller head to use his nostril wires to provide a direct uplink. And eventually, they contact Maxine and show her the damage they've caused. Maxine is like, "Do you think you've won? Do you think this will set me back at all? I'll have you know that I was top of my class in the Navy SEALs. I have 300 confirmed kills with a sniper rifle." And as Maxine begins her Xbox Live chat rant, Monica says, "You won't make anything else here," as she blows up the facility. As the facility's coming down around them, Monica uses the Obsidian Star from 88.Bay to make him a portal out of there. And this part of the story ends by saying, Beyond still got a lot of mad science sites. Let's go do it again. So the scene immediately. So this is actually a separate story. At Beyond Corp HQ, Turtle Man, a character we haven't seen since 85?
Yeah.
Is actually getting laid off by Beyond Corp because he let Doc Ock steal an obnoxious amount of data. He took drugs. And he ignored repeated requests to stop ending his emails with Doug the Thug, aka the Laotian Commotion. And before she can finalize his termination, Spider-Man has broken in and is smashing everything as seen in ASM 92. Doug looks around, realizes no one is there, and completes an employee promotion form. Meanwhile, Mark Bagley takes over in another story as the Slingers, who now work for Beyond Corp's Hero Program, if you recall from, 89.Bay?
That would be correct.
88.Bay, sorry. So Maxine is saying, we've got a lot of shit going down, so you're going to have to help me. Maxine is revealed to be a hologram as she teleports, as she fades out. And they come across a very angry Ben who says, "Hi there, are you next?" And then our final story is Queen Goblin. As she hides out in the generic bad guy warehouse from every comic ever, she laughs into the sky as she looks upon Norman Osborn as the Iron Patriot. Because she has his sins, this mission was never hers. And she says that he can't pass off his sins, and no one walks away, implying that she's going to go kill him. And the final epilogue at the Beyond Staten Island facility, Morbius comes in and tells to a chained up lizard, "What do you say, Dr. Connors? Shall we make miracles together?" Even though Dr. Connors is not in this body, and no one paid attention because no one cared about Nick Spencer's run at editorial. The end.
All right, guys. What's everybody's grades?
Okay, so I'm actually going to divide this into 3 sections. Okay, there's there is the Next Wave section, there's the Doug section, and then there's the epilogues, or there's the Slingers section. So the Next Wave section for me is a B+.
Okay, A plus on that.
The Doug section is an F, and the Slinger stuff is a C plus.
So a B minus would be the overall grade of the issue?
Straight B.
Straight B? Okay. But as you mentioned, the next wave stuff's A plus. So
No, A minus.
A minus, sorry. Dr. Reed?
I give it a B plus.
Now, were you familiar with Next Wave?
Yes, I was actually, because back in 2007, when I was a young lad of, what was it? Oh, yes, I was 27.
That's young.
Yes, that was young.
Neil's younger than that, folks.
I
For
know
those
he
that don't know.
is. Neil, we'd have a long story here, Mr. Next Wave, because I remember the whole story, especially when Boom Boom is one of my favorite characters, too. So, but I said in my review, this was a big love letter to Next Wave, which I liked. However, the Turtle Man, aka Doug, the guy who will magically promote himself as his business is burning to the ground for doing everything wrong.
I think he's
Yes,
based.
I agree. I'm sorry, what was that?
I think he's amazing. I think that Doug is an amazing character, but the story around him is absolute garbage.
I absolutely agree with that, especially at the end too. And as for a Slingers fan, as a guy who actually has all 12 issues and actually has the original part 2, I felt they got really just shafted. Like, hey, remember them? Ben's gonna go beat him up. Go Hobie, because you can't be the Prowler anymore, but you're Hornet.
All right,
I'm gonna stop there before I get angry like some other people.
Adam.
I gave it a B.
Gave it a B, just straight B.
Yep.
All right, tell us why.
The art was good, and it's good. The next wave stuff, that I don't know. I think that's fine, but the setup for the future stuff got me interested, despite the fact that, Kurt Connors and the Lizard are split, but whatever. It is what it is. Interesting stuff for the next run, I guess, if they do it. So I wasn't expecting Queen Goblin to really have much of a future, but there you go.
All right, Paul, your thoughts?
B.
B. All right. Why is it a B?
Solid. Solid.
Were you familiar with the Next Wave stuff?
I read it, and it was solid. And yeah, it was a solid comic book.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give this a C minus. The Next Wave stuff didn't grab me because I didn't understand it. I get that it was a love letter and it was, supposed to tie the Next Wave stuff in, but to me, that this is too little, too late. This should have been done a lot sooner.
Yes.
Like there should have been a little bit more to it. I just feel like that it didn't grab me. The artwork was good throughout, but for me, it wasn't. There just wasn't much there. There wasn't enough meat on the bone. And for me, I'll go back and read the Next Wave stuff now. But and I probably should have, and that's maybe on me. But it didn't do much for me. So,
so here's the thing. As Next Wave fans, Ryan and I really dug this issue. But unless you've read Next Wave, I definitely understand why someone wouldn't. Because all of a sudden, Monica Rambeau is here. And they're explaining things that happened, 2-3 years ago in universe, and probably
And they were also trying to touch upon things that happened in Mighty Avengers too.
This was 16 years ago, real time. It's a very, and I will willing admit, Next Wave is a very obscure series outside of 4chan and other, and it's small circles.
Right. Well, like I say, it's just one of those things. I wasn't huge on it, and so it didn't grab me. So that leads us to the main event of tonight's episode, the final issue. Here we go. I'm gonna do the recap really quickly. All right, so we got issue 93, legacy number 894, Spider versus Spider in this double-sized finale in the on the cover. We've got Our issue opens with a flashback to Spectacular Spider-Man number 240, the first part of Revelations, where Ben is going upstairs with Peter to go look at stuff at the attic at Aunt May's house. And we also then cut back to what I am assuming is Peter Parker, or Adjectiveless Spider-Man number 51, where MJ is confronting Ben. So there's kind of interspliced back things. Now, some of this dialogue is not what actually happened. So we then have Peter at one point says, don't be shy, Ben. These are your memories too. We have the infamous Beyond faces being removed, so there's no Aunt May, no Uncle Ben. We then have cut to present day, where Hornet is being held up and Ben is fighting the Slingers. Some great artwork by Patrick Gleason on that. So we then cut to our dynamic duo of Beyond, where Marcus and Maxine are talking, and of course they see that Peter showed up. So Maxine says she's going to inform the board. Peter's on the phone with MJ. MJ is kind of filling him in about what's going on. So the all of the systems at Ben's apartment are kind of like working, and so we then get Maxine being confronted by Ben. And Ben is really kind of he's pissed off. He's on the warpath. He's pissed off, and basically Maxine kind of manipulates him and says, well, you knew the risks of the procedures, you knew that this would happen to you, so you messed this up, this is your fault. And so all because you didn't want to hurt your friend. And so basically, she gives him an ultimatum. Like, if you want your memories back, you can use this cybernetic helmet, 90s style, that was, straight out of Virtual Mortality. So we then have Maxine, where, talking with Marcus, and looks like Marcus is basically going to be executed for his crime of trying to be a decent person. Yeah. Then cut over to Ben attacking some more guards, and we finally get the discussion with Peter and Ben. Ben's like, here, Peter, you need to put on this helmet. I don't want to put on the helmet. Like, this is not cool. We don't even know if it was going to work. So we then have these guards that are taking Marcus to basically be executed, when we see Janine show up with a giant gun. Basically, it's called an infantilizer, where they basically
Infantilizer.
It's a space
infantilizer. It's a giant space gun that turns grown ass men into babies because reasons.
Yeah.
Still get the conversation between.
Is this a Sky High gun?
I don't know.
This is the gun from
it's
Sky High.
Space, the classic Atari game.
Oh yeah, that is a plot in Sky High, isn't it? Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yes, it is. You're right. You're right.
Oh no. It's the Sky High gun.
It's Sky High.
Yeah, that's right. Because the villain of Sky High, spoiler alert, is like
Major Pain.
Major Pain's old, had to be re-aged or whatever. So, Peter's trying to convince Ben to put down the cybernetic helmet from that Seaward Trainer used to wear back in the day. And Ben, is still getting more erratic and increasingly angry. And then we have one big full page splash of Ben punching Peter. And then we have Ben's like, don't act like you wanted to help me. And Peter's like, all I've ever wanted to do is help you. And then we have the cover portion that's been, out there for a while. This page has kind of been out there for a while. Cut to Maxine with the board. The board basically is like saying, we approve of what you want to do, which is basically she's shutting everything down. Turns out she is in fact a hologram, because this is not 90s enough. We have, Peter and Ben continuing to fight, and Peter's like, I don't hate you. Like, this is not what, this is not what I want. Ben deploys the spinneret thing. And guess what? Ben's like, I'm going to make you, get my memories back. we then get Janine and Marcus getting to the computer terminal. Turns out the scrub is in progress, and we get explained that they're going to she's going to flood the lower levels of the quantum shifting polymers in a psychoreactive medium. It's a goo that confuses and rewrites matter and destroys evidence. That's not foreshadowing at all. So we then get the bad goo being thrown about. Turns out Peter knows that the password to the spinneret, how to disengage it. And Ben basically is like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sick of your gadgets. And Ben's like, that's it, I'm gone. And you have Peter, Ben yelling at Peter that now he's taken everything from me.
He destroyed the helmet, by the way.
And destroyed the helmet in the process. And then he decides to, Peter gets him off of him, and he falls into this vat. And Ben basically is playing a poor pity party, Parker guilt that he doesn't even know is why he has Parker guilt. Marcus helps Peter out as the building's starting to collapse. The building basically gets lowered by like 6 stories. People
just
are like,
gets shorter.
The building just gets shorter.
That's a great joke. Get it? Corporate downsizing.
Yeah. So Zeb Wells was the writer. And then we have the 2-page splash of like, what normally would be the interior book. Zeb Wells is the writer. Gleason was the artist. Valencia was the colorist. VC's Joe Caramaga is the letterer. We then cut to days. Peter is being examined once again because he got really worked over. Basically, all his wounds are superficial. Aunt May is sitting there threatening the hospital because, reasons. And Peter's very upset about what happened. MJ thanks Marcus. Basically, Marcus is like, well, it was Janine. After, she sent me after Peter and she went after Ben. She couldn't leave Ben. So then Janine's kind of like going through a catacomb where we see this, slimy piece of Ben and seeing her own reflection in this goo, like this dark version of herself. We then see Ben's hand coming up through the rubble. Then we have Mark Bagley as the artist. Weeks. So Peter and Mary Jane just went off for a run. They're at MJ's apartment. Peter's about to leave, and MJ wants him to move in with her. Then all of a sudden, just as Peter says, let's do it, we then have this big blinding flash of light, and it says, a road of blood led to you, come with me. And Peter's like, who are you? And that ends. Fades to light. We find out Zeb Wells was the writer of the other 2 parts. Sarah Pacelli did the days element. Carlos Lopez was the colorist. Mark Bagley and Tim Townsend were the artists on the weeks portion, and then Carlos Lopez was also the colorist. We get a letter from Nick Lowe that I'll be referencing here in a little bit. Get the tease of next, and then
here we go. Yay!
And have my favorite part of the fucking issue. We go to months and we look at this really shitty, rundown looking apartment. We have Ben who's got no face. He's like, stop it. Then he puts on the mask and it's like splurch, like it's got like this like ink like element, and kind of has this swirl of no face. Crash happens. Ben is gone, and Janine hears the crash, and basically, no, Ben is gone, and where you were, there is only chasm. And then we have a full page splash that has been posted all over the internet that Ben Reilly is in fact a villain with a green, blue, and purple suit. So that
Ben's leaking ecto cooler.
That is the end of the issue. I think everybody should know my grade, but we'll get to it. First off, Paul, what's your thoughts?
I'd like to go last.
Oh. Oh,
Wow.
Paul's well, okay. All right, Paul can go. Can you go next to last?
That works.
Okay. All right, Neil, what's your thoughts on this?
okay.
What's your grade first of all?
So my grade is a C minus, and let me emphasize, the story is shit. Gleason carries the weight of this issue by like a metric ton. I can't say how much I can't speak to how much Gleason has kind of carried beyond board on his back this entire
I
time.
agree.
But in terms of character assassination from Ben Reilly, I can see Zeb Wells on the other side of the street with a sniper rifle pointing down. I can see the laser. Yes, Mike pointed out. Thanks for. You're welcome, Mike. I'm glad that I was able to
Nice,
remind you the
Mike.
sky high gun. But you know, as far as like, you know, kind of taking all these pieces and just reshuffling them to the point where Ben Reilly is now leaking ecto cooler and calling himself Chasm, what a piece of shit. As far as action scenes go, Zeb Wells writes a really good action scene. The scenes between Ben and Peter fighting are really well constructed. I think Wells had some component of that in how he structured his fight scenes. As much as I didn't like the stakes, they felt really high stakes. The stakes at least felt intense and like something bad could happen to either character we very much care about. In Zach's case, he took the L hard. But if you're a Peter fan, you came out of this mostly intact. Peter never came across as like incompetent, aside from like Zeb Wells' really weird scene where like he goes, all I've wanted to do is help you, where they're jumping at each other, and it's really off-putting to see Peter like act so aggressively. One of my biggest complaints, and we talked about this before the show started, was that once again nothing came of Maxine. She just existed to be.
She's a plot device.
She's a plot device who gets away and will do something later probably, but like she just gets away with everything.
It's like we spent 19 issues doing a Maxine Danger origin story that nobody asked for or wanted. Sorry, I'm jumping all over you, but
and to kind of, I was mentioning that we're kind of going to act as though no time has passed since the last episode. We still don't know any of Maxine's motivations. We don't know what she wants. We don't know why she works for Gun Corporation. We don't know like anything about her. We're supposed to assume, woo, this character is so mysterious, but there's nothing to hook me on her. And the fact that Wells and company treat her as like a big deal feels disingenuous and I think unearned. And so to see her to get away with everything and just like, oh, she'll be back later, guys, I don't care. If she's back for whatever Slinger's book Niccolo wants to edit, I don't care. I'm not picking up the book with to see Maxine Danger.
She's not the draw for me. And I'm sure that there's somebody on the internet that loves Max that read this character and loves it. Yeah.
But I guess to wrap this up, Gleason carries the book incredibly hard. There's one good joke. It's the one with the building shrinking. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, corporate downsizing.
Yeah, but like if you're a Ben Reilly fan, holy shit, you took a hard L. Woo! All right,
yeah.
Adam.
All right, Adam, grade thoughts.
Let's see. So Beyond the first issue, I gave the very first issue of Beyond a B. I'm ending the run with another B.
Wow.
I think these issues are similar in how Wells wrote Peter and Ben, which that's good. There's consistency there. But the thing is overall the story is a B. I think what they did to Ben is at least a D.
Yeah.
Like the issue's good enough. Okay, big climactic battle. The battle is really good. I feel like some of this dialogue wasn't really, it was weird to me. Like it felt like Zeb was taking stuff from, taking cliches from things. I don't know. It was just weird dialogue. But overall, I think it was a pretty solid ending, except for what they did to Ben. I think they did Ben really dirty. And I feel really bad for Zach, who, loves this character.
I'm not the only one. I know.
And other people
Paul,
too. Yeah,
Paul,
I know.
Paul has a love for the character too.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and I'll be putting my 2 cents in too.
But,
Sorry.
like,
Adam.
everyone
like,
that loves this
besides
character, I
Zack-
feel really
besides
bad
Zack is
for.
like the big one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the other way.
I think the art. Oh, every artist on this does a great job. Great art all around.
But Shelley pulls through for once.
And yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess there's some interesting setup here. Yeah, and like I said, the Beyond Corporation stuff, like it was okay, but it's just like I don't know. I feel like they could have used some other hook for this to do this. I do not know what that is, but I just feel like they could have done something else. But I don't know what it could be.
It feels like you could have taken like any corporation. Like you could have taken like I mentioned this earlier on in the season, but like you could have taken like Roxxon or what was that company that was in like the Transformers comics that BlackRock ran? You know what I'm talking about, right? The GB,
Oh yeah, who was that?
Yeah.
Man?
GB
It's
BlackRock.
so
Yeah,
many
like you
years.
could have taken that, and like I don't think anything would have changed aside from like the name. But like with Beyond Corporation, you have all this weird shit that you can do.
Yeah.
And they just chose, instead of like making Ben like, I don't know, Ben Reilly time cop or something, they just keep being Spider-Man while with all these weird gadgets, and it felt pointless in the end, especially with the implication of Beyond Corporation being attached.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure if one other thing, like I don't know, like I said, I don't like that they did this to Ben. I feel like if they were going to do this to him, it's intriguing. He's truly lost his identity, and he's kind of like a villain or an anti-villain or anti-hero or something. But I almost feel like they should have just let him lie, and if it was going to result in this,
there's a whole lot of things they could have done.
Yeah,
They could have let him stay dead after Revelations.
There's a whole lot of things.
I just don't know. It's tough.
All right.
That's me, I guess.
Oh, sorry to step over you, Adam. My bad.
It's
Dr.
all good,
Reed.
man.
Yes, thank you, Zach. And I'm trying to be. I also apologize, Adam, for jumping on here. So
Yes, sorry.
It's all good.
I
guys.
agree with a lot of people that Patrick Gleason really carried this issue. Even like after he uses the ray on the emphasizer and thing, you actually have one of the babies has peed itself. It's like the detail is like perfect in a lot of the scenes and the way it is. And I actually felt bad for Marcus. I felt bad for Janine, and I thought the battle scenes were well done. There were some cliche. I mean, as a issue, and I'll get into Ben's situation later. I gave it as a B-. When I looked at all the issues, including the ones I really did like, including fellow reviewers, including on here and everything else, I give the storyline a C-. I almost went to the D- range with the ending as a whole story, not the issue, but the whole story.
Oh man,
Case wise, I felt there were stakes. I felt there was good characterization, and as for somebody who has dealt with depression in his life and feel like you don't know who you are, I got that side of Ben's memories ripped and everything else. But that's my personal bias from that little piece. But as going with Bankman, because I know he's on here, who released a perfect mean of Dr. Manhattan, it's 2018. Ben Reilly ends as a bad guy. It's 2022. Ben Reilly has ended as a bad guy. Again.
It's 2016. Ben Reilly's ended as a bad guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just and as for corporate thing, it's very cliche. Like you said, they could have used some other corporation. They could have made an original and nobody would have cared. But everything when Maxie, even when she fools the board, like, haha, it's a hologram. That's not fair. Only we as board members are allowed to use holograms. It's like, yeah, you're a moron.
It wasn't even like funny corporate satire.
Yeah, exactly. It's when it was all said and done, I kind of go with Meal. Nothing alluded to this. The ending makes me I gritted my teeth. I mean, Zach, you know this. You have one of my perler beads. I have no desire to warp any of my perler beads to resemble that final page as much as Mike says it looks like something out of, Image's Haunt. I will not make that character. I'm sorry. That really just hit me so hard. I was like, as a fan, that really hurt. And I even said it in my video review too, where I just went, the story is over and I have suffered enough. I'm ready to move on. So I gave as the issue and the stakes B-, but the grade itself went to a C- for the whole storyline, because I had to remember there were good parts of the storyline. But I'm going to let Paul and you guys now take over.
All right, Paul.
All right, you guys go. Yeah, you guys have fun. This is your show now.
All right.
I'm turning this
I'm
down
gonna
just
blow
a
you
little so
up.
my family who's sleeping next door doesn't hear this.
So I think that there's people are going to have issues with this comic book, and I have no problem with why they have issues with this issue. Um, the thing with art in general is you're going to have people have different opinions, and you're going to have people who are going to interpret things differently, and how you interpret art and and I say art as in general, not just the physical, the actual art by Patrick Gleason, which is gorgeous, obviously, and I think everyone can echo that. He's just a phenomenal talent. And a very solid, very good writer too. I'm really excited to see where he goes in Marvel next. But the thing we have to remember is that everyone interprets things differently, and everyone's going to look at things with a different perspective. And one thing that I really liked about where Beyond, I think the Beyond storyline as a whole has gone, is that it gave us a different perspective of Spider-Man's world through Ben's eyes, and how much of more of a complicated character he is. And let's be real here. And as a Ben Reilly fan of the original Clone Saga, Ben Reilly, he was obviously a much different character than when obviously Dan Slott brought it. And I'm not a fan of Clone Conspiracy. I just was not a fan of that whole thing altogether. Ben Reilly especially. Walking into this issue, I was like, okay, I had an expectation that Ben was going to get some of his memories back. He was going to be righted, and he's going to become part of the Spider family. And it was just going to be cool. We'll get a Scarlet Spider book that will probably last maybe 10 issues and then fade away. And that's what I expected. When I read this issue, I love this issue. I loved it. And I think the reason I loved it was because it zigged when I expected it to zag. And I think that, Ryan, you brought up a great point about depression. One of the things I really liked about Ben's journey through all these issues is his, the fact that it's not just depression here, right? I mean, obviously Ben's, I think, themes can transcend onto many different things. But one of the things that I really was gravitating towards, to Ben, was the whole idea of just self-worth and what is his identity? Is his identity through Peter's memories or his own memories? And as the clone idea, that's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things I loved about this storyline in general was it took that idea of identity and taking it away from someone. And when you take away someone's identity, what does that do to you? And again, Ryan, you brought up a great point too about you keep bringing up depression and things like that. And we all struggle with those things, right? And what I liked about this is that it didn't go where I was expecting it to go. Now, Neil, I'll give you this. You're right about Maxine Danger, but here's the other thing. I don't care about Maxine Danger. I never really did. She was a villain, and maybe you liked Beyond more, and that's why you cared more about what her whole deal was, and that's fair. I'm not gonna take that from anyone who had a problem with Maxine Danger, because I was just like, cool, she's evil. Like I don't need a lot of backstory with her. I never did. I'd like to know. This issue didn't make me go, oh, she sucks, or oh my god, she's amazing. It's just like, cool, she's a bad guy, whatever. Okay, that's fine. Because to me, the meat of the story was seeing Ben and Peter fight, and when Ben and Peter are fighting, and he says, "I've always been trying to help you," and that's Peter talking to Ben. That's 1,000% the truth from the beginning. And I love seeing the different scenes. Like I call these cut scenes to that because these obviously weren't verbatim from the Clone Saga.
No, they weren't. I double checked.
Yeah, and again, you read it more than I have, and I haven't read all of it, but I've read the majority of it. But I liked all that stuff because it felt in line. Again, in my opinion, it felt in line with what I read back in the day. Because Mary Jane was not happy to have Ben around. Ben and Peter was trying to do his best to be giving to his surrogate brother or whatever you want to call him. So the thing is for me is that when I have when I have Ben, who think about this: if you're someone who's struggling, and again, I love the metaphor of the idea of Ben losing his identity as who he thinks he is, and he's fighting for that. That's what he's fighting for, his identity at that point. Everything that he is represented in his self-worth, he's fighting for. So I get the fight between Spider-Man and Ben. And I fucking loved it. I loved it. And you know what? When they fight and it goes down, I'm like, man, like that sucks. And I thought, okay, maybe Ben's dead and they'll kill him off, whatever. And this is going to be very controversial apparently, and I don't give a shit. So whatever. I love Chasm. I love it. Give it to me. And it works because here's why. Where's Ben going to go after this? Where does the character go? When you're fighting for your identity and like your identity is wrapped up with like he's literally Peter 2.0. And now this version of Ben is a lot darker and a lot weirder, and obviously Slott and David had a lot to do with that. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm thinking about just purely this storyline. To me, it feels like there's actually something going on here with the character for the first time in forever. And to me, if you're going to go and bring in Ben Reilly back, who's literally Peter, verbatim with blonde hair, you better give him a really good, interesting storyline. And I just don't know if there's one out there with it as a hero. We've gotten that. And where's he going to be? A Scarlet Spider? I mean, what happened to Kane? I mean, for me, this feels, and you guys, you don't have to agree with me, obviously. I don't care. But the thing is, I understand where they're coming from a little bit, I think, from a creative standpoint. Because here's the thing. He's Spider-Man. How many Spider-Man do we have?
Yeah, I get that totally.
Yeah, Miles Morales. I mean, you're gonna hate this, Zach. I think he's 1,000 times more interesting than Ben ever was. And I
disagree with that. Sorry, I completely disagree with that. But
here's the thing. Either way, Miles is gonna have this. Whether you agree with me or not, he has the status, and they're not gonna put Ben over Miles. It's never gonna happen. No. Now, I'm almost done, and you can go off and yell and scream, and that's fine. But the thing is, with all that said, I'm like, okay, so Ben, to me, Neil, you talked before the show, and you said you're right about all these different things. I think you're completely wrong about Ben, because to me, Ben only had progress in the story. That's the best part. Like I think to me, you call it character assassination, you can call it whatever you want. But he progressed as a character. He may not have progressed the way you liked it, but he progressed. And to me, I think he's way more interesting now than he maybe ever was. And with this, he also not just I think takes place. You can't put him over Miles, right? Well, what else did Spider-Man, or I say Peter, lose recently? Well, Venom is pretty much his own entity at this point. Okay, so Venom, like the whole Bizarro idea that we've lost, you now have in Chasm. And again, you don't have to like it. That's fine. But to me, there's something fascinating with the idea of Peter having someone who's like himself, who has struggled with his identity. Peter has a responsibility. That whole sense of responsibility is even emphasized more with Chasm. And I love that. To me, that makes Peter and way more, and that their dynamic is interesting. Thus the name, right? I mean, I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's stupid. He looks like Han." Like, you're right. His costume maybe is a little over the top, but I kind of like the colors. It's different. Everything about it, I like where this is going, and I think right now I'm in. I'm 1,000% in. So to me, Beyond Arc, I'll give it a solid B. Had some misses, sure, but to me, I think this is way more interesting than they could have done with Ben Reilly. Because you know what? I just don't think where do you go with the character. So
here, I'm going to offer an alternate perspective. I don't think they should have brought Ben Reilly back in Clone Conspiracy, and then we wouldn't have had to do this.
I'll take this over. This is way more interesting what Clone Conspiracy ever did.
That's not. That was what I'm saying. That Ben Reilly should have never come back.
No, and that echoes into some of what I'm going to say.
Also, I did kind of see this Peter versus Ben thing coming from a mile away. I know you said I was wrong.
I mean, it didn't help that they had kind of teased certain things, and Chasm had his own thing.
Yeah, the very cover.
I'm talking about
the very cover and the preview pages.
I'm talking about like when Beyond started. I'm pretty sure I called them fighting over X thing in the end.
We'd have to go to the tape, but
Let's check the tape.
Let's get the footage out. Oh,
Retake.
Mike's in the chat. He says, "Here's the problem," and I'm assuming he's replying.
Hang on, can I give my thoughts before we give anybody else's thoughts? Because I'm just bursting at the seams.
Okay.
Because I'm mad. I'm mad. Okay.
It's enemies. It's got to come out.
I think I went through like 3 different stages of grief today.
Which ones?
Anger, bargaining,
Wait,
denial.
So wait, you went from 1 to 4 to 2. Where are you now?
I'm all over. I'm back to angry again.
Are you gonna go to 5 and then to 3 next, and then back to 4?
It's gonna take me a while to get to acceptance. I ain't gonna lie.
All right, I'll make you solo.
I understand, and I respect, and this is why I always like having Paul, because Paul, when we started this show, was always going to be a bit of the contrarian in the group, and I appreciate that, and I understand. And one of the points I was going to bring up, this was Marvel saying, okay, we don't have a Dark Spider-Man now. We need a Dark Spider-Man. We need the dark side of the spider. We need the replacement for Venom. My issue is that, one, I agree to what Neil said. I don't think they should have brought him back. At this point, Ben Reilly fans have been screwed 3 times in the last 5 years, 6 years. Clone Conspiracy, the way Peter David tried to craft a story with it, and then Peter David has to quickly end it, and then it immediately gets flipped with Spider-Geddon to where he's reset to factory settings, and then we get this story. Ben shows suicide. Ben died a heroic death in Peter Parker Spider-Man 75. So if you strip away everything that makes Ben, Ben is Peter, but not. Ben had his own experiences, his own journey. He was shaped by different things, but there's still that core of him. So they basically rip away the core. And my hope was that they were going to rip away the core, but restore Ben at least to where, given everything he's gone through, given everything that Beyond put him through, hop on the bike with Janine and ride off into the sunset and just go off into character limbo. Could have easily done that. Could have easily sent him to Hollywood and been a Spider-Man not in New York and been his own thing like they did with Kane similarly. There was a lot of different directions they could have gone. The fact that they chose to go, the fact that Nick fucking Lowe has the audacity to try to apologize to Ben Reilly fans in the fucking letters page was shallow and hollow to me as a Ben Reilly fan. It felt shallow and hollow that he felt like he needed to include an apology to Ben Reilly fans, because I understand what he's saying. On the surface, there's too many Spider-Men. We need to clear the decks. The fact is that nobody was touching Scarlet Spider when he was in Vegas, after he was in Vegas. Nobody was touching Ben Reilly. And I was okay with the premise of Beyond, of him taking Ben taking Peter's place and moving forward. Making him a villain is not what I ever wanted. In the past, I had said, well, maybe if you made him a villain even before they brought him back the first time. The problem was the execution of it the first time was so poor and so well received. It left such a bad taste in my mouth and in many people's mouths that were Ben Reilly fans, that to see it basically done a second time, oh, we're doing it better, was lame to me. It contradicted it, and this is talked about a little bit in the chat. Ben was like, these are my memories. The memories he has with Janine are his memories. He rejects that too. He rejects Janine. He rejects everything. He just, encompasses his entire depression. And as somebody that's identifies with Ben so much, being a twin myself, and having my twin die, This is hard for me. This is hard for me. It was hard for me to read. In terms of execution, it was a well-executed issue. I thought Patrick Gleason was awesome. Again, I echo some of the sentiments. He carried the issue. But for me, I can't condone what felt like Ben just giving up. It felt like Ben just gave up. It felt like he didn't, and granted, his brain is scrambled. He's not in his right mind. It's very similar to what happened in the Clone Saga with with Peter. You know, his brain was a little scrambled and he went a little nuts. Again, this is the worst parts of the Clone Saga. The same song, it's a different verse. Why do we have to have conflict between Ben and Peter? I don't understand that. Like, it felt like the plot was driving the characters. Didn't feel like the characters were driving the plot. I know Paul will disagree with me, and that's fine. And agree to disagree. But it felt like that they saw Ben Reilly not as an asset, but a problem, and that BEOYND became the means of addressing the problem that is a non-existent problem, in my opinion. I understand the character points. Again, I enjoyed most of this arc. You go back and listen to this entire season. I enjoyed most of the arc. But as we wound down, I started getting concerned. And while I felt like the issue was well executed, to me, it felt like I feel right now like how Jordan fans felt in the 90s. That's how I feel right now.
Can I step in for a second?
Go ahead.
So, to me, you mentioned, like, at the end we were getting kind of concerned. I think from 90 onwards, that after the Gleason Bagley issues, it felt like something happened internally. Like at the last minute, they pivoted from what was supposed to be the ending. Like Lowe came in, was like, okay, guys, so look at this cool OC I made on DeviantArt. Let's put it in the comics somehow. And so the Beyond board and friends had to scramble and change the ending so they could fit Chasm in there somewhere. And
this is the second consecutive ending,
which feels like it's editorially
that just felt like it just collapsed on its own. It doesn't feel like a satisfying ending. It felt like kind of a rush job.
And I think it's the schizophrenic pacing of 91 and 92 that make me feel like something happened behind the scenes midway through production.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it was
one
always
of those
meant to be
things.
this way. I think they wanted to use Ben from the very beginning.
I'm not saying they
from the very beginning.
I'm not saying they didn't want to use Ben. I'm saying that the way they took the direction they took midway through, changed to the point where they had to scrap what they had from 91, 92, and then pivot to something else.
Because
I don't know.
If you remember, like what I said, if they're trying to rebuild Ben, I was in, because
they did rebuild Ben.
But they rebuilt Ben into a villain, and that's where
they made him into Kane.
I just feel like that's a complete.
Didn't make him the Kane at all. Actually, Kane's a completely different motivated character, bro. Hate to break it to you.
It just feels like a betrayal, and I feel betrayed. I feel like that they did this. They crafted this story. They brought in JMD for nostalgia. And because Ben Reilly fans were going to mobilize, 90s nostalgia is a big thing. And as a fan, I was excited. I was in for it. I was disappointed by the ending of Spencer's run, as we talked about on the show.
Get out of here. This is so stupid.
I love this meme.
I love it. Dr. Manhattan's face is how I feel right now.
But
This is ridiculous.
memes aside, I, as a Ben Reilly fan, just feel like I feel disgusted. I feel like that this was the plan all along. I do feel like the chasm was their plan, because we need a Dark Spider-Man. Venom's no longer a viable option, so we're gonna make Ben Reilly. Basically, they've taken the character arc of Kane in the '90s and given it to Ben Reilly, and it just feels wrong, down to even the color scheme.
I don't think the color looks anything like Kane, but that's just me.
But you got two purple former clones, deformed clones, mentally deformed now, and as somebody, that's especially insulting to me on the mental aspect, because like
I want to comment on all
I
this.
take that very personally because of like my connection to the Clone Saga, so I know that that's maybe just me, but man, I don't like it. I just can't. I don't feel like I can condone it, and maybe I'll feel differently in a month or a few days. But
1,000 rebuttals.
But
go ahead.
When I was saying, like, he's essentially Kane, I wasn't talking about like specific character beats, but more the archetype he fills in the Spider-Man mythos of like the angry, mentally defective clone.
But yeah, that's what I thought too.
But see, I always viewed Kane, like, to me, Kane was a ticking time bomb, right? Like, to me, when his character was brought in, he was already deformed for many different reasons, and we didn't know his backstory, and he just was a very generic, like, I'm depressed, I'm Peter, I envy Peter. Like, that to me that's Kane's characterization right there. That's not Ben at all.
But isn't that exactly what Ben says, or what Ben implies?
That's what Ben turns into at the end of the issue.
Yeah, hold on. We had 19 issues, Zach, of developing why he gets to that point. Where with Kane, it's just like I was abused by Jackal, and I envy Peter. And you have him from the rafters being Sting, from wrestling, whatever, being like, oh, I'm gonna get you guys. I'm gonna avenge everyone on this. That's not Ben Reilly in this. And listen, I want to make this very clear. If I feel bad for you, Zach, and because I understand, like he's your favorite character besides Spider-Man, and I want to make that. I want to be sympathetic to that too, because. Peter's and you, like other people, like I don't want to just belittle those people, because I want to understand and totally understand where you're angrier as at. Because if I were you, I'd be effing pissed too. So I want to make that very clear. And I like Ben Reilly. I like the character,
right?
And that I'm not just doing this to be a dickwad, to be like a contrarian. In fact, this is why I said it's gonna be a really angry show, because I'm like, I like this issue. Right. And I want to make it very clear that, you talk about, the whole mental aspect and you're being a twin. I think one of the things again, and maybe I'm looking too far in the future, but I think there's a lot of rich storytelling here between Peter and Ben, because now he's not a villain. He's the anti-hero. That's to me, it's so obvious right here. And the one thing that I think we haven't talked about enough is, and Michael, you brought it up, Michael McNulty from the chat, and then again, it's a valid point. Is it's the evil clone. It's that whole thing. And the one thing I would say, and you brought up a little bit too, Zach, is he becomes this, kind of the stereotype a little bit in a sense to where he's like depressed, he's whatever. But the one thing, again, I go back to, you had 19 issues developing of why he got to this point. He doesn't just show up being depressed. We get to see he tries to be the hero that's his brother. He fails that in some ways. He needs to have a corporation back him up to become Spider-Man. And then when he gets Spider-Man, he basically fails, and then he's losing himself at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, hold on. One last thing I want to say. Again, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what happens with the character going forward. But the one thing that I like where this could go is the repair of the relationship, and of showing you, and I think the audience, how someone can come back from losing their identity, come back from losing their depression. And I don't think for 1 second that there's going to be this forever rivalry between the characters. There's going to be uneasy alliances. There's going to be, some hard feelings probably, like maybe between Venom and Spider-Man at some point when they had. But I think there's going to be a repair between them at some point, maybe for a while. But I think you're going to get to a point where he'll be more heroic, but I think it's important to show where people can fall and get back up. Because I don't want to be preached right now. I don't want to talk about today's society. But the one thing I think we all, at least me and you, I think Zach, we both can agree is that we don't give enough people grace in this world, man. And when people do fall, we want to see them get kicked more and more and more. And to me, this is a great opportunity for us to get a character that maybe got kicked, fell down, and then is like, doing the wrong thing and return back to, form. So to me,
I would hope for that too, but that's really what I was hoping for between this, the Peter David series, and even throughout Beyond. I honestly, really, genuinely thought that there was going to be an acceptance for Ben, and where even though Peter was going to have to come in and save Ben, which annoys me to no end because I feel like Ben didn't need all this. That's the thing that I felt like got taken away by bringing him back, was they took away
his choice to sacrifice.
They took away all his confidence, for one. And then, of course, that's what Beyond kind of seized upon. But Ben was pretty confident in himself when he became Spider-Man. Like, he kind of went through that crisis of confidence when he was Scarlet Spider, and then it got to the point where he literally was like, I have to, deny the Scarlet Spider moniker and embrace my Spider-Man role. And he felt there was a confidence there. And if you read the Clone Saga, that's genuinely the Ben Reilly epic books chronicle, pun intended, he was pretty confident, even up until the very end. And he dies a hero. And here, after we saw Peter not give up, we had that great Bagley issue where Peter doesn't give up, and it's, Peter and Ben are like, let's take this on. Ben giving up rang hollow to me. That part of it for me, where he's like, I have nothing, I'm just done. And I get that, but that to me rang so hollow and was so antithetical to Ben as a character that I just couldn't, like, by the time we got to the chasm part, I was so irritated because it was the exact opposite of what he did for Peter before. He was trying to save Peter.
He's losing his memories. Like, that's the thing that that for me it works, because he's losing himself literally through the memories of Peter. Like, because again, his identity is through Peter, and he's fighting the whole 19 issues to retain what he represents as himself, as he put himself into as Peter's memories. Like, that's the whole point of having Peter at the very beginning say, these are your memories too, Ben. That's what like Ben is hanging on to. So when you're feeling like again, this is why I love it, because when you're feeling like you're losing yourself as a person, like, there's obviously you're gonna like retreat and like maybe dwell more onto like the bad parts. And that's why I felt it all rang true to me, because he's losing all those things that you're talking about that gave Ben the confidence. He's losing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what he's fighting for.
Right.
There's something I did want to point out that, like, if I get that, like, they're talking about Ben, but I feel like him saying, like, Peter, just put this helmet on. Don't think about it. Just put on the helmet, Peter. Nothing bad's gonna happen. I promise.
Yeah,
that was pretty hilarious.
Peter was completely in character to say, we can find a better way. Like, we shouldn't trust these people. You've already established we can't trust these people. Like that was Ben's desperation. And I get what you're saying, Paul, that they had to strip mine the character completely.
Yes.
But my contention is you didn't have to strip mine the character. Like, you didn't have to. This is not a story I desired to read. I don't want to see Ben Reilly be stripped down. That's fair. Like to where he is nothing but a hollow husk, because and it's partly because, and I'll say this, one of my contentions with how the internet comes at the Clone Saga and has portrayed the Clone Saga is that superficially Ben is just Peter Parker with blonde hair. When you actually read it, that's not true. And like, look, it plays into the worst elements of the Clone Saga and what people say about it. I mean, Ryan and I have been on the internet, and Paul, you too, but Ryan and I particularly, as Ben Reilly fans, we got made fun of. We got mocked. We got, crapped upon.
Trust me, I got crapped upon like the Clone Saga too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody, and you understand that too, Paul too. Like, anybody that was a fan of the Clone Saga growing up in the 90s, 2000s, even to the 2010s, like, if you're a fan of the Clone Saga, you're looked on as like a bizarre person. Like, how dare you like this story?
Because you're looked down upon because they say it's below everybody.
Yeah,
that's what people always say. Yeah, that's what people always say.
And then you have people, and I hate calling out other people, but like people like Linkara that, and I've watched those videos where they sit there and they cherry pick maximum clonage or players and pawns and stuff like that. They'll cherry pick elements, and standing alone, they're not good stories. They're not Citizen Kane. I spent 10 years covering the Clone Saga on this network, on this website, and even when it sucked, I called it like I saw it. If it was bad, it was bad. But the core tenets of what I loved about the Clone Saga when I was asked about it was Kane, Ben. I love Janine. Janine really didn't do much until like these couple of issues, and I enjoyed seeing her. But before that, she was just kind of there. The pacing of it was a problem. I enjoyed it as it was going on, but now that I'm looking at the story collectively as a whole, I felt like that the ending was highly, highly rushed. And so that also is a problem for me. And I think that I probably hold things into too high of standard, because when I think of the Clone Saga, the Peter Parker Spider-Man 75 is one of the best single issues. It's top 25 all time in single issues of Spider-Man, because it's a great ending to that story. I wanted to like this story. I wanted to be all in. I just am not. It doesn't excite me for the Zeb Wells era.
Yeah, the last half of the book is like a trailer. It's essentially one big trailer for the Wells run.
Who are you in the light?
Like, who is the person in the light? I mean, I was glad to see the marriage. And the other thing too,
Judith Traveler.
Oh Jesus!
Will-O-the-Wisp.
Will-O-the-Wisp could be Will-O-the-Wisp.
Marcus was the MVP for me for this issue. Like, his transition felt pretty genuine. I thought he was a pretty not like three-dimensional compelling character who I'd want to see as a supporting character, but like within this 19-issue story, he's made a lot of strides,
and I was surprised how much I was kind of rooting for Marcus throughout this, and then that
even in the Devil's Reign one shot, see, you really care about Marcus.
That's also kind of my contention with like Maxine, where Paul, you mentioned like not having to care about Beyond Corporation like Maxine. I ended up caring about Marcus, but then like when you have Maxine, look at the device and say, "Hey Ben, I know I've lied to you. I know I've gotten like a lot of people you care about killed, but you should totally have Peter put on this helmet. It's definitely not a skull combustion device. It won't give him a lobotomy, I promise." Ben just believes her at face value
because he's lost his mind. That's the whole point.
Well, and I get that he's lost his mind, but at the same time, I'm like, okay.
At this point, he should be gunning for Maxine and wanting to destroy her rather than like caring more about his memories.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think he's not thinking straight though. I mean, like when I'm upset, like I can tell you right now, I don't think straight. I can imagine if I'm losing my memories trying to fight for myself. Like, I mean,
I get what you're saying, Paul. I really, really do. I just felt like that. Wow, the whole goal. I mean, it's very telling that Ben was supposed to be in Last Remains and then he wasn't.
Also, apparently, according to Zeb Wells, I don't remember what podcast it was on, but it was mentioned on Co during the story time of this issue that apparently this was supposed to be that Wells wanted to do the story with Peter, and Nick Lowe told him to use Ben instead, and that tells me not necessarily that they rushed it last minute to accommodate Ben, but it does tell me that I don't even know what it tells me. It just tells me that like there's something missing in the cards.
That maybe that Lowe wanted Ben to be
taken off the table. Yeah,
taken off the table, and that's kind of more or less what I got with the letters page was that they viewed Ben Reilly's return long term as a mistake, and
which is correct.
Honestly, we lost or we got Neil spinning. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're here.
You're here.
Honestly, I'd have preferred these. Look, I was the guy, and you can go back and listen to the old episodes of Crawl Space. I was the guy that was like, "Oh, I want Ben Reilly back." This felt like very much the monkey's paw slap in the face to me.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can see that finger. I can see that paw finger curling, baby.
The monkey's paw, like, we're gonna give you what you want, but not really. And I get what you're saying, Paul. It could be an interesting story, but it's just hard for me as a Ben Reilly fan.
I get it. I understand that.
Support that.
No, and I want to make that very clear. That go ahead.
Like,
go ahead.
One thing I want to say, it's just the one thing I think that kind of makes me it kind of rubs me the wrong way is like that ending, like just in that he's like Janine's with him, but it's like it feels wrong. The whole thing, well, and we're supposed to feel that way, I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
You look at the art and everything, and it's like
confused me to like this isn't right. What's going
Very
on?
claustrophobic.
The bathroom is all dingy, and I was like, well, I was wondering, like, I was like, I was thinking, well, when I saw that, I was thinking, okay, is it a crappy apartment or is like Ben corrupting the apartment? Because of what
it caused me to have questions.
That is interesting, but it seems so bleak, and it's like, oh man, the character it's a bad ending for the character, but it does bring up interesting story possibilities. It does bring up a new Venom-esque character. Because Venom and Spider-Man,
I'm so sick of why do we have to have Dark Spider-Man?
I know.
We've been having Dark Spider-Man for the
right,
part.
Jack, you're right. But here's the thing though, like I think there's great story potential there, in my opinion.
If they follow up on it, we shall see if they follow up on it.
No, I think that Zeb Wells has maybe an end game for it. I think this will be revisited during Zeb Wells' run.
I think it depends on how much leeway Nick Lowe gives him. What
I know. Here's the thing.
Nick Lowe has the power. They have the most power, obviously.
But no, I think Nick Lowe.
This was a low flex. Like this entire story was his idea.
Nick Lowe went to Zeb Wells and he was like, "Hey, do this Ben Reilly story." And Zeb Wells was like, "Well, I don't really like Ben Reilly, but okay, I guess."
Yeah, I wanted to do this with Peter, but I guess if my paycheck depends upon it, I guess I'll do Ben.
Yep.
That gets me to where if there was a reverence for Ben, and especially because I mean people are. Our friends are all going to, and everybody watching this and listening to this, you're going to see tomorrow because we're releasing the DeMatteis interview tomorrow on the 31st. When you have this dichotomy of a writer that has a genuine love and care for the character of Ben, and you hear him talk about it, and it makes it that much more heartbreaking as a Ben Reilly fan. And like, apparently I was yelling so loud that I woke my wife up.
Oof.
So
baller status right there.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. We'll go through
I have a few more things, not about Ben, but the issue itself in the future.
Okay.
I thought it was very interesting that a couple weeks ago we had people being like, "Well, I can't believe that Peter and Midge are gonna break up again. They're already showing," and I was like, "Shut up! Come on! Don't know that's not gonna happen." Because what happens at the end of this issue? And
Right.
Adam, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Mary Jane's like, "Let's move in together," and they're
I'm
gonna
like,
break up. And
please.
like,
Well,
yeah,
but like going
Please
off of like,
God, please
but
move in together.
here's the
please.
thing, Paul, is that everything that we've been advertised so far has you can't say like, oh, you're yeah, you can't. I don't want to say you're having your cake and eating it too, but like everything that we've been told so far has implied that like everybody hates Peter. He's basically on his own. The Avengers hate him. Aunt May hates him. And the
All this
solicit for the second
negativity.
solicit for the
Don't get
second
that.
issue is saying like, the greatest couple in comics is done. And I know it's a question.
not, but you don't. It's a major story point in this issue. Like it's
Right.
literally like a major moment for the couple. Like they're not gonna do that and put it in 2 issues and they're gonna break up. I mean, if it does and it stays lasted more than a year, I'll eat crow and be like, you know what, Neil, you're 1000% right. But I'm gonna tell you right now, ain't gonna happen. There's no way they're gonna do that.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like you can't get upset at people for getting upset
I'm
for
not
what
upset
they've
at
been
people.
what they've given it face
I'm
value.
just saying, I think it's hilarious
I'm
because
upset at the solicits now because Neil rattles off the issued 1 solicit. It's like, man, there's so much negativity in that. Everyone hates Peter. What did Peter do? Why does everyone hate him? It's like,
that's the thing is,
why? Why do you
that's
do?
the first arc.
Why
I
are
mean,
they doing that?
I'm a
But
Peter. Always
that's
been
jumping.
Peter.
That's supposed to be a jumping on point. Do you want? Why would you want to open up your story like, oh, everyone hates Peter?
Exactly.
At least Spencer's run, even though Peter was kind of on like shaky ground, they didn't advertise it with, oh, everybody hates Peter and he's absolutely
Well,
miserable.
they're obviously trying to garner interest,
Yeah,
being like, well, why does everyone hate Peter? So I mean, like,
But can we get a little positivity in this dark world, please?
I just to me, it's like my point is the whole reason I bring that up is not because of solicitations. I'm just gonna say it's just hilarious that people are like, they're gonna break up. I'm gonna get mad. It's like, guys, like they're getting back together. Like they're making a point to put them back together and live together for a reason.
God,
come on,
God, I hope
use your
so.
brains.
My thing is that for fans that have been around, in the Brand New Day era, it felt like that Peter was a loser, and we have to make Peter a loser to be relatable. I'm all for Peter being more grounded and being less dependent on others around him. I'm all for a street level Peter Parker where the world isn't ending type situation, and we haven't gotten that. We've gotten little elements of that, but we certainly didn't get that with Volume 4 of Amazing Spider-Man. And throughout Volume 5, it felt like a back to basics in a lot of ways, and there was a lot of elements that worked with it, but like a more grounded, grittier approach with Peter is fine. But just the way they're advertising it, it again feels more sensationalized, and we're making Peter a loser again, where everyone's mad at him. I don't have a desire to read that. Like that's
Star Trek, right?
Nope.
What?
Oh well, shit! This is gonna go over your head then. Who here knows about the O'Brien must suffer meme?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, this all has a point. I promise. Paul probably knows what I'm talking about. But every season on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, there was what the fans would call an O'Brien must suffer episode, where Chief O'Brien would go through like absurd amounts of suffering for the sake of the plot.
Yes,
but usually it came with the expectation that he was going to be okay because it was serialized TV. It doesn't feel like there's any reassurance on this end. Like, it's going to go like, oh, it's so bleak and miserable, but there's no light. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's just thrown at us. Guys, look at Peter suffering. Isn't this great? And I don't feel like watching Peter Parker suffering for 6 issues.
Look, we will. I will call it.
I don't read solicitations. I don't. So I just read the issues when they come out. So that's the good news, Neil. Is like I'm gonna go out and be like, cool. I'm gonna read this. I know there's I knew about the Mary Jane Peter thing is because everyone was like, I can't believe they're gonna break up. So I'm just gonna tell you right now, I don't care about solicitations. I read the books.
I don't know about you, Paul, but before I spend $4.99 on 22 pages
That's your prerogative.
of pulp paper,
That's your prerogative.
I'm
I'll
entitled
read
to
the
get
books.
mad.
You're
Oh,
allowed
boy.
whatever you want.
Ooh,
I don't
okay.
read solicitations. I don't.
And you probably look, Paul. You're probably better off. I mean, the only time you read solicitations
Right,
is when we do them on the show.
Exactly. I just don't
But-
care. I want to read the books.
But that feels.
Spicy
feels-
meatball.
I just feel like that's a little dismissive because
You're right. It's dismissive. I don't care.
Okay. Moving on. Let's move on to a different point.
Exactly.
I do.
Stupid. Don't read them.
Okay, here's a good question. Who is besides Paul, because he'll buy anything.
No, that's not true.
Who has like a genuine like above 70% interest in Wells's run?
I think that there was enough good issues of Beyond written by Wells that and he's done well on other projects recently that I feel like that he's grown enough as a writer that I am willing to give him. Look, I ain't gonna lie. Where I went through all 5 stages of grief was
what was that, Ryan? What did you just flash on the screen?
That was my percentage.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty
68.75 for audio listeners. Look, earlier today, if you had talked to me, I'd have told you I was
angry.
I was angry. I was bargaining. But I will say this. I've been very disappointed by the endings of the last 2 runs. Really, the last 3. I think the last run that I felt like ended well, like ended on a high note, was the Spectacular Spider-Man, like the last issue of Spectacular Spider-Man that they published.
Zdarsky's run.
Zdarsky's run. I felt like that ended on a very high note, and it was a phenomenal issue. It's been a long time since a run has ended on a high note for me. Paul Jenkins, I think, is probably the other one that comes to mind. So for me, I'm like, okay, I enjoyed this ride. I enjoyed most of this ride. I hate the ending.
This feels eerily similar to Spencer's run, except that
But it very much feels like Spencer's run.
Spencer's run. I thought this is much better because it was a jumbled mess. Yeah, you're gonna tell me 2 kindred people is better than like randos that had no idea, had no reason to be in the story. Is better than what we got in this issue? You're insane, homie. You're insane.
I
don't disagree. Both are equally bad in my opinion.
But I'm talking
both are equally bad for different reasons.
Hang on. Here's what I'm saying is that Spencer and Beyond both had really good starts, and they peaked in the middle, and then they tripped on their own dicks and tumbled down the stairs in the 3rd act.
I disagree with completely.
I would say the last quarter, because I mean, really, honestly, the last 3 or 4 issues of actual Beyond books really like the 2 Kelly Thompson issues I didn't like at all. I liked the one with McKay scripting, but like to me, Kelly Thompson's parts were just not good for me. Unless she did the Janine stuff, all the Janine stuff, which I don't know is true or not.
If you didn't read 12 issues of a comic from 2006, you're not going to get this issue.
Yeah, that's my problem with it. Like that. There's certain stuff that I felt like was needlessly inserted. Again, the Bay issues outside of the Mary Jane and MJ one, I just didn't, and maybe the Aunt May one.
I like the Misty and Colleen one.
Misty and Colleen one was fun.
The early one was good. The Doc and Aunt May one was good, I thought.
I mean, look, we've covered over 100 issues. I never gave my grade, by the way, on the issue.
We already know what it is.
Do we want to know what it is?
We already know what it is, man. Come on.
No, actually, you're gonna be surprised.
Oh, there you go.
My bad.
Wow.
I am.
I-
My bad. Barely passing.
Gleason's a whole letter.
I felt like
Gleason's
that
a
it-
whole letter grade.
It would be a C- had I felt differently about Ben, I think, and maybe a B-. But the Ben thing really drug it down for me. It was it was executed effectively. So even though it was an effectively executed issue, I just dislike the execution, and so that's why I give it the grade I do. But yeah, look. At a certain point today, I had the fleeting thought of, do I give up reading comics? And then I thought about this show, and I thought about the people that listen to me, and I thought about all the things. And I think part of my emotion too is we wrapped up CSC last week, and that is going to be a highly emotional episode. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm. By the way, hi, Zero Corey. Hello. Yeah. I've enjoyed having you in the comments tonight.
I don't know who that is, but I like them too.
This is I think didn't Wells confirm there's a time skip?
Probably.
I think there is. I
I
can't
think the time
remember.
skip takes place in this issue because this is the chasm thing is months later. So maybe there's more to the Ben story. Maybe we'll get some more. I don't know. Listen,
You'll get more. You'll get a little bit, but it's not going to make you happier. Let's be real.
no, I probably won't. But I'll read it. I'm gonna read it.
No,
'cause
I'm being real. I'm just being real.
No, and again, my opinion may change, but I think there's just a lot of
It's jarring. That's
jarring
true.
and mixed emotions, and I don't hate Marvel for what they're doing. Like it's not. Look, this is not as bad as Clone Conspiracy. That's why I didn't give it an F.
Hell, honestly, this isn't even the worst comic Marvel's putting out. That would go to Donny Cates' Hulk.
We can agree on that at least.
I would also sentiment that.
Wow,
the
wow.
hang on. Whoever had to follow Immortal Hulk though, like the bar is so high.
Okay. Well, okay.
That's like following Man Without Fear. That's like following Frank Miller, or I'll say it. Michelini having to follow Stern and DeFalco.
Okay, so let me put it like this. Let me put it like this for you, Zach. You're correct that it is a very tough act to follow up on Immortal Hulk. However, there are ways of doing that don't involve being absolute dog shit.
That's true. That's
And
true.
being cocky about it too. I think that to me is my biggest thing. Is like he kind of came in with the title. It's again my impression was like, I'm gonna come. Marvel's like, you're great. I am great. I can follow up. If I was Donny Cates, I'd be like, I don't want to go fucking near that book because
I'm gonna wait for the next guy in order to like.
Well, I mean, to me,
Exactly.
I wouldn't have even published a Hulk book for 6 months. Like, let the ending of Immortal Hulk, let the ending of Immortal Hulk kind of linger, and that way it gives people time to process it and then
you can do
recharge.
your stupid pulpy bullshit.
Yeah, and then you can do which I mean. At least it looks pretty.
What if the Hulk was a spaceship? This is Donny Cates is a 12-year-old who pretends he's 30.
But
And then Hulk fights zombies, and then Hulk fights demons in his head. He fights his dad. Wow.
I'll also defend Donny Cates too. Like the poor guy, like the man gushes about his wife on Twitter and people attack him for it. That's not cool. Like, don't be dicks.
I won't
It's
insult
like it's
his
right,
wife.
but you don't have to be a dick to him.
I won't insult his wife. I'll insult his work. That's worth criticizing.
And I don't follow him. I don't really care about Donny Cates that much, so I don't know. All I know is he does complain on Twitter about Twitter a lot, and to me, it's like, just shut up. Just stop talking about it. Like,
oh no, I went to a place that hates me, and now I hate it. What do I do?
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, why don't you just like not like complain about like one thing about is everything in general, and I'm trying to be better about this for myself. is instead of people being like talking about it, just fucking do it. If you're so tired of Twitter, just get off. Like, don't
take a
say
break.
anything up. Like, he's like, well, I should leave. I'm like, yeah, you should. Just, who cares? Like, just stop.
But to, I guess, put a final nail in the Beyond coffin, I do think that they missed an opportunity to name Ben something that wasn't like something as edgy and deviant art-ish as Chasm. I think that Baja Blast would have been an excellent.
Well, that would have been copyright infringement. They would.
Or what about Ecto Cooler? I mean, they can probably partner with Sony for that one.
Yeah, but again, like I say, do I want to see a Ben Reilly, villainous Ben Reilly? No. But will I cover it on this show because I don't have Clone Saga Chronicles to make my poor former co-hosts suffer through? It also no. So like we'll cover it. I will give it a look. If they do more Ben stuff, I'll give it a fair shake. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm having a real hard time. And I think hopefully I wasn't completely all over the place and I was effective in why my grievances are there.
I think you did a good job, Zach.
No, Zach, I think you did an excellent job explaining why you're upset and why. And I want to make that very clear. Like I knew it was gonna be tough for you, and I want to be very respectful of that because you love the character. And like it's like if Frogman, like and it's like this is a very much a different. But if Frogman all of a sudden like legitimately like they try to turn him into a different character like completely. I mean, and again, this is like not even near your comparison, but I'm just saying like. I'd be upset. I'd be like, what the hell? But if it's someone like you love so much and you identify with emotionally, like I don't identify mostly with Frogman at all, but you have a deep love and passion for, for Ben Reilly.
Not that I'm constantly going to tease the ending of Clone Saga Chronicles, but we go into that too. Like I do it very deep. We get raw on that episode. Of why it's so personal to me. Like I've hinted at it tonight a little bit, but I go a lot deeper for me in there, but I do, continue your point because I do want to do voicemails before we wrap the show up.
I just want to say that again, like I don't think this is gonna. Time will tell. I think Beyond was way better than I was expecting, and I do feel they did it actually. To be honest, I think they wrapped it up pretty well considering. Like there wasn't a lot like. I thought it felt very natural anyway. It all worked for me. Everything for the most part worked for me. So
see, and I'm glad it worked for somebody because it just didn't work.
And to put this in perspective, we talked about Silk before in this show. I connect to her on a deeply emotional level. If they had taken Silk back to like pre-slot or to the slot era, or something even worse than that, like I'm trying to think of like of an apt comparison. But like if they took Cindy and utterly changed her into something that she isn't, I would be furious. Because I have a deep connection to that character, and that's where I think I'm able to kind of empathize with Zach on that. I might not have like
Cassandra Cain fans probably.
Cassandra Cain fans have a specific little bone to pick with this thing called the New 52. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yeah, trust me. I was hearing all the questions about that when I was in San Diego for New 52. So I want to pivot, kind of. I said he was going to be on the episode earlier, but we have a couple of voicemails. If you want to leave us a voicemail, you can certainly do that. The voicemail line, if you want to give your thoughts, is 818-925-6631. If you've been watching us on YouTube, the scroller has it in there, but I've got it pulled up. The voicemail line, 818-925-6631. Got to leave it under 3 minutes. Otherwise, it will cut you off. But I did have our good friend, Javier Trujillo, leave us a voicemail, fresh off of Season 2, Episode 1 of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Here is Javi.
Hey, Spider friends, it's Javi, just giving a call in. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it today, but I wanted to share some quick thoughts on this end of the Beyond era of Spidey. I read the book this morning digitally through the Marvel app because Comixology is now a cesspool and awful. I really liked it, kind of. I thought Gleason's art was his usual amazing art. The story itself was just gut-wrenching from that first punch. Anytime you pull a reference to Revelations, especially them getting in the attic, that's just going to get me. I love that story so much, and broke my heart to see them go back to that and see those memories erased from Ben. If you even really can call him Ben at this point. So I thought the issue was very epic and very dramatic. I don't quite know how to feel about Ben. I don't really think this is Ben Reilly. I think Ben Reilly died in Peter Parker Spider-Man 75, and the fact that this is the 27th or 28th or 29th cloned version of that clone, and that he doesn't even have the memories anymore, you can talk about the morality of it. I don't know if this is really Ben Reilly, so I don't know if I should feel upset or not about what happened in this issue. I like the chasm design. I think it looks pretty cool, kind of Prowler-ish. A lot better than what Miles' current suit is. But I thought the colors on Chasm's suit really popped. Just really interesting. I liked it. But as much as I enjoyed the issue, I'm looking forward to getting past this Beyond era. There's a lot of hit or miss for me because I don't really feel like this was Ben's last ride or like last hurrah or his last ride. I didn't feel like it was a celebration of Ben Reilly at all. I think that's the Ben Reilly book. That's where I'm getting like a true Ben fix. But once again, Marvel pulls the rug out from under us where Mary Jane wants to move in and doesn't look like maybe that's going to happen. So it was good to see Bags back on the art, but I'm more than excited to see John Romita Jr. I think he just belongs with Spidey, and the preview pages we've seen look excellent, way better than what I've seen from his recent DC work. So hope everybody's well. Hopefully I can get on soon, and everybody take care.
Thanks, Javi. Excellent voicemail.
On the topic of Romita Jr. on ASM, can we please give Ben Begley books that aren't Spider-Man? Please let them draw something other than Spider-Man. They've been drawing Spider-Man forever. Let them draw something else.
No. There's an old chant in wrestling, like "Fight Forever," when it's excellence. And I for one, what are you going to put him on Daredevil? You're going to put him on X-Men? You're going to put him on Avengers? Because last time he was on Avengers, it didn't end well.
Are we talking about Romita Jr. or?
Yes.
I was thinking of like Bagley. If Bagley already did X-Men, so that's no good.
Yeah. So
I'd actually like to see. Did Bagley ever do Daredevil? I don't know.
Correctly.
I mean, he's drawn Daredevil, yes, but has he ever done like the ongoing? Yeah, I don't
think he ever did.
Never did a full run of Daredevil.
But right now, I don't want to pull Marco Cicchetto off of Daredevil. Like, he's killing it. I want Marco Cicchetto on Spider-Man. Like, if we have to propose a trade of artists between Bagley and Daredevil, that wouldn't be one that. I just don't know if you go back to him being more of a swashbuckler type of Daredevil and not grim, dark, gritty, like Frank Miller Daredevil, I don't see Bagley doing well with, but I do see Bagley doing well with more high adventure Daredevil. That makes sense.
If we did like a Mark Waid style run of Daredevil, then I could see Bagley doing that.
Yeah, Zero Corey said the Eric scene was kind of a nod because that's the whole reason they went up there was to clear out space for the baby. Yes, that's true. There's parts of it. Somebody asked if we they wanted to talk about those scenes in Revelations and Spec 223. Spec 223. Obviously, I have read that issue very intimately. I think I've read it probably 100 times in my lifetime. So I know that issue frontwards, backwards, and sideways. The dialogue is not the same. So it's not quite the same, but that. Her punching and getting physical with Ben was actually more in adjectiveless 57, I think. Double checking right now, making sure. You can find it in the Ben Reilly Epic Book number 3. It's the one that infamously has the different colored spine if you actually happen to get your hands on these Epic books. And then, of course, Revelations is an Epic Ben Reilly Epic Book number 6. If you're an audio listener, you're hearing me, grab things, but that's what they're at. Let's see. I think it was 50. Drawn by that Adjective of Spider-Man, 57. Drawn by John Romita Jr. Ironically enough. So, okay. Our next voicemail, it was left by a good friend of the site.
Hello. This is Venkman. Just calling in to say how much I'm enjoying the Spideydude Experience. I truly appreciate hearing all your different perspectives on all the topics you discuss, from Marvel Legends news to the latest issues. Now, the only thing that would make the show even better is if Neil could talk about Transformers some more.
That's right. Right,
Hope to see you in the next episode. Bye.
Yeah,
he is correct. Objectively, the show will be 20%.
Well, no. If you want to talk Transformers, that's when it's just you and me, and I have to go run and handle the dogs. You're free to do that, but otherwise, you're no longer allowed to do that. You can do that on the Broken Rider Variety Hour, which you can find on twitch.tv/QuillSniff. So,
okay.
All right, I think. That kind of thanks again, Venkman, for leaving the voicemail. Once again, the voicemail line is 818-925-6631. The email address, if you choose to leave an email, is SpideyRadioNetwork@gmail.com. You can leave us a review on your favorite podcasting apps.
Since we're here, do you want to show off the graphic for next season?
Yeah, so we can do that right quick. We can show you a teaser of next season's graphic. With that, here it is. The Spideydude Experience Season 3 Wells.
Very nice.
With some Pat Gleason art. That is going to be the new cover for the third season of Spideydude Experience. Very, very pleased at this artwork. So if you have not checked it out, obviously if you're listening to this episode, you won't see it until next episode, season 3, episode 1. We will have another special that will be covering Ben Reilly number 3, Silk, and what else we're covering on Spider-Punk number 1. So
we might need to talk about Gwenverse, but we don't. No, this isn't a satellite.
I'm not reading that. I'm not going to read it.
We're talking about
I will not come on the show for that.
No, Ryan, thank you for coming on, man. I really enjoyed you being on tonight, man.
Thanks for having me on here. That was a lot of fun. I threw it out. I was like, hey, I'm free if you need an extra person, and it worked out really well. So just thanks for having me on here and so forth, and a lot of shared thoughts here.
Yeah, Ryan, kind of pimp what you got going up on the Pixel Classroom podcast.
Well, the Pixel Classroom podcast, I am about to welcome my second music teacher who also wrote a book known as The Past to Beyond, which was actually a #1 Amazon seller for 3 months. She'll be on Teresa Hoover. She will be on tomorrow morning, actually, and that will drop in 2 weeks. And I have another set up with a good friend of mine, Ben Bozin. We're going to actually talk about introducing instructional technology in with social studies classrooms and everything else. And actually, I might be joined with another one there. And then I got another guest set up. I'm crossing my fingers. He's going to agree to be on the finale, which is usually in May. I do not want to say who it is because I don't want to jinx it, but let's just say some of you will be like, how did you do that? But we'll see. He responded today, and I said, if we can make it happen in May, we're good. So may the force be with us. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll see.
It was nice meeting you today, Ryan, by the way.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry. It was nice meeting you today.
You too, Paul. Thank you. Actually, it was a lot of fun. And like I said, I love your spinner rack. Really awesome spinner rack.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me.
Paul, what's coming up on Comic Bench?
Oh, what is it?
Channel?
Just kidding. No. Well, we did the Moon Knight episode. Right now, I'm doing a new stream every Tuesday. That's a new thing. And so Last Tuesday, yesterday, we had Moon Knight. Next week's going to be the I have it right here. At least I thought I did. Maybe I don't anymore. Oh, right here. I have a new sub series, or I love sub series. So I have a sub series of like a million different things, and one of them I've only done one episode for, is Comic Book Masterpiece. The first one I did was for the Batman The Long Halloween. And this one I'm picking, and for this whole sub series is basically just big pieces of comic books that are big deals for the medium. I mean, superheroes, whatever, right? Well, this next week is this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 1, obviously, issues 1 through 7, Eastman and Laird issues. Yeah, this is the next.
Old self is excited about this.
I am too, especially when they just had the recent news that the last Ronin final issue will be out next month. So and that timing, beautiful.
Which, to be honest, I have not read yet because I want to read this stuff again first. I've read most of it. I want to read all the original Eastman and Laird stuff, and then read Last Ronin.
And I think that's a smart choice, Paul, too.
Yeah, no, and I read the first most of this, but I was all digitally, and now I'm going to read the first one for the Comic Book Masterpiece, and then I might maybe do a sub Turtle series. I haven't figured it out yet, but either way, this is going to be episode 2 of that, and this is important work right here. This is big for the medium. So yeah, can't we talk about that? So yeah, every Tuesday streaming 7:45 PST. Be there.
So 9:45. Well, I'll be in bed.
Or stream it later. Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Or go to youtube.com/comicbench.
And you can stream live on your own mobile device.
Yeah, on your favorite mobile devices. Bogan Rider, what's coming up on the Variety Hour?
So probably within the next couple weeks, because work's been kind of hectic and I have the dog sit for a week. But once I start streaming again, I'm planning on doing my stream through of the Witch Queen, and eventually getting through to my playthroughs on Outer Wilds and Hades. I'm actually going into those games completely blind, and eventually planning on doing Forza Horizon 5. These are all kind of just things I have planned further down the line. But you know, you get to see me in one of my big of cars and video games, and also shooting things and games. So you know, it's all coming together.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do some comic discussions sooner rather than later. Want to hype up the next thing you guys will see here on the channel. If you are subscribed to us on YouTube, you will see it. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should subscribe, because the JMD Mateus interview is going to be happening here on the network. We're going to do a simultaneous release of the audio edition, so I'm going to actually be working on the audio version of this episode. And this episode technically will be coming out on the audio edition after the JMD interview, but it is an absolute pleasure. Was an absolute pleasure to talk to him. It was one of my we did it on a Saturday, and it was just a banger of a day, and it's a great episode. It's got myself, Paul, and Neil on it. Unfortunately, we didn't have Adam on it, but it was just a great interview. We'll get into everything with Ben Reilly through issue number 2. I did find out who the big reveal was in issue number 3, and Neil can attest, and Paul, that the shocked look on my face was
I was on the phone with him when he learned.
I wish I could have seen that.
It was I was very, very surprised, because I had swore it was Judas Traveler, and it was not.
Oh yeah.
So, but
I was spoiled, unfortunately. But it was a good issue. I read it yesterday.
I put together the clues, but when that final page came up, I was like, yeah,
that's a banger of a reveal right there, I would say.
It was certainly, and people have been talking about it in the comments about retcons for Ben in this story. But listen, if this is your first time watching us, thank you. We certainly appreciate it. We've had quite a few newcomers on the stream, thank you guys for watching us tonight. A few returning souls like McNulty and, of course, Matt, and Vinkman's always on. Sorry if you guys were loud, or if Vinkman was super loud. I apologize. It was just super soft on my end, so I was trying to make sure people heard Vinkman. On the audio edition, hopefully that'll been leveled out because I'm going to level it. So hopefully it was one consistent level. But for those that are watching us, thank you. And once again, I want to say thank you to Ryan, the doctor, and of course my other co-hosts, Neil, Adam, and Paul. So with that, we're going to wrap officially this episode up. I want to thank our patrons once again.
Including the one that I need to update the graphic for.
Yeah.
Yes.
and as we gain more patrons, the format of this overlay will change.
Yes, of course. So, once again, thank you once again to our patrons, Vinkman, Scott, Greg, Jurgen, Phoenician, and Kale. Of course, we also have our newest one, Georgia. Thank you for your contributions, your support. And coming up later on the network on Spideydude.com, we'll have the next episode of Make Mine Mayday. The audio edition of 97 through 100 will be coming out. And then we will also, our next Make Mine Mayday live stream will be a Last Planet Standing live stream as we wrap up season 2 of that show. Speaking of season 2s, we have the next episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics with Javi and Jack coming to you next month. And of course, more episodes of Voices from the Eyrie starting April 15th. So they took a little bit of a break, and they're coming back strong on Voices from the Eyrie with certain Commander Riker, Jonathan Frakes, Xanatos himself on Voices from the Eyrie. Cannot wait for you guys to listen to that episode. Very excited about that. Once again, we've got some great stuff going on Spidey-Dude.com, and that's where you can continue to find all of our stuff. Of course, find us and follow us on our social medias. @Spideydude Radio is the Twitter for the page. You can follow me at Spideydude as well. Spideydude Radio Network on YouTube, Facebook.com/Spideydude Network, as well as Instagram.com/Spideydude Network. Once again, the voicemail line is 818-925-6631. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for participating, and we will see you all here on the Spideydude Experience next time as we start Season 3, The Wells Era, here on Spideydude Radio Network, Spidey-Dude.com.